Well, hello there. Thanks for stopping by, all you proud weirdos. And I see that we even have Granny here already. Welcome aboard, Granny, and so nice to have you here with us. It's been a busy couple of weeks. Last week, we had our interview with Humanity Unplugged, Omar Faizi's. Well, it was something he did for the equinox, and he had 111 speakers on, if I remember correctly. Quite a few of them. Ian is aboard, a proud weirdo first class. Thank you, Ian. Appreciate your support, my friend, and always great to see that badge popping up on the screen. Yeah, we're then this last week on St. Patty's Day, my grandson was born, Hudson, and he's doing well. Mama and baby are healthy, recovering, and he's a big, strapping lad and very present, very aware. And Mom and Dad are taking maternity leave and spending some time with their little one. So that's kind of exciting. I got to drive down and get to meet him this past weekend. So that was a real blessing. Had a wonderful time, and what a thrill it is to look into the eyes of a new child. Planetary Protector, how are you? Thanks for coming on by. We have some real strangeness this week, which we'll get into in just a little bit. And I see that Rusty is with us, and thank you, Rusty. Delighted to have a new member of the family. And thank you, Ian, again. And look, Raymond made it too. Hi, Raymond. Thanks for coming around tonight. As some of you might know, if you're watching this in replay or if you're new to the channel, those of us who have mastered the very simple technique of X3D viewing and who frequent this channel are called proud weirdos. For a good reason. Because we're weird and we're proud, right? Thank you, Amanda, for your congratulations. And, trying to work up some merchandise and some things going for our supporters, so you'll have something tangible to put into your hands. And, but that takes a lot more work than I realized. And, I'm so busy with the channel, getting things ready and processed and stereo compositing and voiceovers and video intros and putting the videos together. It doesn't really leave a whole lot of time, but I'm not complaining. I like what I'm doing. So anyway, up here in the, shall we say, historic People's Republic of Massachusetts, it's really, really cold. We thought spring was on the way for a minute here, but it got over that notion pretty quick. I think it's going down to 18 or something tonight, but definitely not t-shirt weather, Rusty. But pretty soon I'll be digging the kayak out of the basement and cleaning up my tackle and go chase some of those poor old bass out there on the reservoir and try to show them who's boss. Sometimes I am, sometimes I ain't. But that's okay. That's part of the game. That's why it's fun. Anyway, so by golly, we've got a number of you in the audience here. So why don't we go ahead and take a peek at our first offering of the night. If y'all are ready, got your X3D chops on? Here we go. This is the asteroid Itokawa, and it was imaged by the Japanese probe Hayabusa, which was on one of the first probes to go out and land and get samples and bring them back. This was shot in 2005. And as you look at it, you can see it's not particularly spectacular. It's about, a little less than a mile long. This was taken from about 5 or 6 miles away. But then a day or two later, they took another picture. Notice anything different? I do. What about that big white sphere on the left end, on the surface of the asteroid? How strange is that? Let's zoom in on it and see what we have. And take a look at that. Now, I don't know about you, but that definitely looks artificial to me. How many perfect spheres are floating around out there in the asteroid belt? Perfect spheres that, if you look closely on the right side and on the left side, they're perfect circles. And then you see those 3 legs sticking out. Those of you who are my age will... Roy says he'll have his mashed and slathered with butter. Don't forget a little mayonnaise in there too, pal. That's the secret ingredient. But you know, this reminds me of Sputnik. Strange, isn't it? That we have something that looks like an old-time Earth satellite landed on the asteroid Itokawa. James is on board. Hi, James. Thanks for stopping by. Yep, Ian's here, proud weirdo, first class. Thrilled to have you. And Ian, I hope you've been noticing that your name is in the roll credits on every episode now. So, at 15 minutes of fame, it adds up. And it'll be there forever, at least on those episodes, until you decide to do something else. Hey, Crazy A! You caught us live. How are you, man? Good to see you. It's so nice to have everybody showing up. I know that many of you live in parts of the country or parts of the world where spring is already in full swing. Balmy evenings, and birds singing, and fish coming up, that type of thing. And so the fact that you're spending a few minutes with your fellow weirdos and with me as well, I'm honored by that. Thank you. I really do appreciate it. And Rusty says, it looks like a probe or craft that fired legs into the asteroid hitching a ride, maybe. Could be. I just don't know. It's obviously landed there. And let's take a look at something else. Got one of Rami's classics here. He calls this a machine. Well, maybe. I don't know if that's the case or not. But it definitely is strange. And you know, I have mentioned this before. That people say, why do you put those colors in there? The quick answer is, we don't. Those colors are there in the digital product. And when we balance the colors and balance the curves, this is what we get. I'd sure like to know what those are. Okay, let's move along. Now my My buddy Laszlo Shabalik's over there in Hungary. He stays busy finding things. And they're usually small and blurry, but this is one of those composite images that Nev does. And by the way, James, you're absolutely right. It's not a natural formation, and it wasn't there the day before when I showed you the first picture. And we'll go through all these images again so that you can have another look at them. But anyway, this is one of those gigamacros, Gmax, that Nev puts together, where he very cleverly knits together the ChemCam, the color images, and the black and white images. That is not easy. He is an amazing, talented guy. But anyway, as you look inside that yellow target, you can see from this distance that we've got a box that's really pretty good size. I'd say that's maybe 3 feet across. Let's move in just a bit. And as you look at this thing, that is so clearly artificial. Non-fractal angles everywhere, 90 degrees. And the triangles, the knobs. But I also want you to be sure to pay attention to this bunch of stuff down here, because that's pretty strange in and of itself. There's not enough there to just really nail it down, but it does look like a pile of debris to my eyes. Anyway, let's move in a little closer on Laszlo's block. And this is going to be kind of blurry. It's already blurry. But in X3D, it kind of clears it up some. Let's have a look. So what do you say? Natural or artificial? I see those 3 circles on the left hand, rather 2 circles on the left hand side. And what looks like a grid or something folded over the top, and we've got those spheres. I don't know. Except, I do know. This is artificial. There's just no doubt about it. This is completely artificial. And now, staying in this same ChemCam GMAC, I was poking around and I found a couple other things. There are these really nicely shaped blocks. Those really do look like they've been made on purpose, with all those right angles and that nice curving. And that block on the right looks like it has a recessed oval in the top that has circles within it. Maybe I'm just seeing things. It's certainly possible. And staying in the same GMAC, here's something that Sarah Runcie found. Take a good look at this. I mean, this to me actually makes my anomaly hunter hairs stand up on my arm. This is really blatantly artificial in my opinion, maybe not so much to other people. But let me ask you to draw your attention right over here on the right side. Take a look at that perfectly square area with, they're kind of kind of teeth or things hanging down. And obviously, as you move your eyes from there to the left and you see the squares and you see the various angles and triangles and on that left end, it really does look almost mechanical. But I'm thinking this is a structure that's fallen down. I could be wrong. But it sure doesn't look natural to me. I didn't even know if I'd have images ready this week. You know, I have to, by the time I get done, I usually finish a video on Thursday afternoon, and I schedule it to go up at midnight on Friday, normally. Not always, but most of the time. And that means that Thursday afternoon, I have to start looking for anomalies right away. And I need to get at least a half dozen of them together. So I have something to show you by Tuesday, which means I've got to find them, extract them, process them, move them into the 3D realm, do the stereo compositing, do the final tweaking and sizing, and then load them into OBS to share with you. That takes a ton of time. I wish I could just share the screen, but you know, I haven't had it figured out how to get that to work yet. And I don't want to do it on a live hang. I don't want to experiment on a live hang and have you guys, you know, going, oh man, I think I'd rather go watch some Power Rangers reruns. But anyway, let's have a look at some more things. My buddy Thomas Mikey Schroeder Jensen, I call him TJ. He's a long-time anomaly hunter, and he works closely with Billy Carson as his video guy nowadays. But he's made some good finds. And here's one from early on that TJ made, and it's TJ's Cube. And this is from Sol 120. That's in the early days of Curiosity. And TJ was the first one to point this one up. You see it up there in the center inside the green target. And as we get a little closer, it's easy to see just how perfect that cube is. I mean, that's flawless. But I want to draw your attention to these items as well. Those are every bit as anomalous as TJ's Cube. Now let's zoom in as close as we can without getting too ridiculous. And there it is in all its beauty. Is it part of that thing that's sitting on? I don't know. Maybe. But you know, it's such a perfect cube. How can you not just call that artificial right out of the gate? And Crazy A, you're right. You know, all of these images have tons of anomalies in them that I don't talk about. I got to leave something for the other people to do, right? Now, this next one I'm kind of proud of. It's one of Rami's, but the technical challenges in producing this one in the 3D realm were quite challenging. Oh, that's so nice. Say that Chris gave me a shout out on his channel only a week or so ago. I have so much respect for Chris, the following he's developed, and the way that he does is that nobody does what Chris does. And I don't know that anybody can. You know, he brings you right into the image and he shows you what he's doing. He shows you what he's finding. And it's very, very cool. And Chris Maroney is a good friend. We've had the chance to personally hang with each other a couple of years back, and he's a great cat. Thank you, Rusty. Yeah, sometimes images are really clear, sometimes they're not. But take a look at this one. This one, for me, was a 8th degree black belt challenge. But I think it came out okay. Hey, look, Alan just joined us. Hi, Alan. I'm doing great. Hope you and Rosie are doing great, too. There we have it. This is from Percy. And on the left side of the image, if you look down in the left-hand corner, you can see this beautiful little dome. It almost looks like one of those ventilators that you put on top of the house to bleed off the heat in the attic. And of course, on the right side is a close-up of it. And, you know, I should share, well, it's hard to do, is the thing, because it takes so much work to put these things into 3D that I can't do the process over and over and over again for one image. But I wish you could see the original, because Rami is a wonderful, highly skilled at Photoshop. But I think my rendering is brighter and clearer and a lot easier to see. And Rusty, I am delighted that you did learn how to view these as intended, because it literally opens a window onto the surface of Mars. And indeed, if you go looking around, just type either X3D or cross-eyed 3D into a Google search, and you'll find tons of sites with all kinds of images. Mr. 7-Digit is aboard. Hello there, my friend. Thanks for coming along. So that's one of Rami's terrific finds from a year ago. And now we're going to move over to 3361, a GMAC by Neil Spence. And this was actually in last week's video, but I didn't say anything about it, nor did I mark it or do anything with it, because I wanted to make a point out of the odd formation down to its left at 7 o'clock at the foot of the cliff. And James, you're right. You know, there may be entrances here. We don't know for sure. But anyway, this is a big block of that Martian bluestone off in the distance there. Probably, I don't know. I'm going to be real conservative and call it 2 feet square. But I think it could be as much as 4 or 5 feet. So take a look at this. Is this just a boulder? It might be just a boulder. But there are a whole lot of things about it that give me pause. I really like that Martian bluestone. There's so much of it on the planet. I'm not sure what it is or why it happens to be blue in color. But I can imagine one day that Martian bluestone will be made into bracelets and necklaces and pendants and amulets and things like that, and sold on Earth and on Titan and Enceladus and on the asteroid belt and Mars and all the other places where we're going to colonize sometime in the next 100 years. But now back to this chunk of rock. Look at this arrow pointing out. You see that gear-like mechanism? Ratchets or little knobby deals. There, that's my technical term, little knobby deals. And look right there in the center, in the front. Again, we have the squares with circles right in the middle. But here's kind of the point of this whole exercise. That is, this whole section, this whole boulder is suspect, and this whole part that's within the circle is highly suspect because it's full of 90-degree angles, circles and squares, various bits and pieces. And, well, Mr. Seven Digit, is it basalt? I don't know. I would have to check and see what NASA's official word on it might be. Now, my understanding, at least on Earth, is that basalt is black in color. All the basalt I've ever seen is black. And is there a chemical process on Mars that allows that lava to harden and turn blue? I don't know. Good point, James, what you just brought up there. And there's so many unanswered questions, as you well know, on Mars. And we, who are involved with this on for pretty much a daily basis, have arrived at a point where we really don't trust NASA. I personally have great respect for the scientists there, and the physicists, and the astrophysicists, and the plasma physicists, and the planetary scientists. They do wonderful work. But all of that gets filtered through the managed agenda, which overlays the entire operation. And as Richard C. Hoagland so famously said, NASA stands for never a straight answer. So whether they would tell us whether that blue stone, whatever they tell us it is, with who knows if they're telling the truth. We do see an awful lot of it, though, don't we? It's almost like it's absorbing the blue of the sky. Maybe it's a reflective property that it has. But I've noticed even on shady days and near sunset that the blue stone is still blue. So maybe it actually is blue. Who knows? Let's look at a few more things. Now we have a intrepid young man named San Kotvix who has made some pretty good finds. And yeah, crazy, a managed agenda, that's what we all live under. We are free-range slaves, doing our master's bidding, imagining we have freedom. And yeah, James, you're right. They do blur the real pictures, and I'm totally convinced that they have high-res images that they put in a classified file of the artifacts and ruins. And that stuff's all well known, well studied. And then the stuff they can release to the public, they do with substantial obfuscation and paste overs and CGI and rockifying, and all of that stuff. Anyway, this is something I'm calling a nose cone. That's not what it is, but it's a Percy image from 383. Pretty recent. It's out there on the plain, quite a distance from Percy. So again, I'm thinking this is probably about 4 feet tall. And, you know, Alan brings up the point that he's questioning everything NASA has told us to date. And you know what? I have to kind of agree with you. Jimmy Roberts, too. He sincerely believes that about 85% of what we're looking at in the data products downloaded to the analyst's notebook is fake. He did one video recently, which I would really recommend you viewing, and I wish I knew which one it was, but it was like, I think just the last video or the one before, where he went out and he took an image of, let's see, as long as I'm going to be talking so much, why don't I come on camera so you can admire my almost overwhelming beauty. But what Jimmy did was he took an image, I think off the internet, of earthquake ruins, tumbled blocks of cement with rebar sticking out, and squares and things that were obviously manufactured but broken. And then he rockified them. He put the dust cover on them, he put the rock texture on them, and he actually presented that first and said, this is rebar, he was pointing out. And of course all the haters say, oh, you're crazy, that's not rebar. And then he pulled all his processing off of it and showed you that, yes, it was. It was a picture from Earth of concrete with rebar in it. So it does make you stop and think. And of course we find now and then, not frequently enough, but now and then, mechanical things or constructed things which are so obviously artificial and or metallic that you just can't argue with it. And that's why I think there are insiders who are letting things slip by. Because I think the insiders, whoever they are in that last step before it gets put on the NASA servers. And I believe that after that point, there's no further oversight. Those that are working at NASA and the higher-ups, middle management and up, are far too busy to go and look at the data products and look for anomalies. That's not their thing. They have to trust that everyone's doing their job. So I really think that that they are letting some things slip by and saying, hey, folks, there is stuff here. Okay, that's enough of me talking. So let's get back to that nose cone, which is right here inside the green target. And we're going to zoom in on it. And look at that thing sticking up. Look at the glint, the two sunlight glints off of it like it was made of metal. And in particular, do you see the markings on it, the square with the circle in it? Let's move in a little closer. And yeah, you're right, James. They do drip feed the stuff to us, but fortunately there are enough of us out here with sufficient processing skills to clear things up. And they, of course, never counted on there being a stereographic 3D channel devoted to anomalies. According to my buddy Will Farrar over on whatsupinthesky.com, He's had a long-term channel there. I think he has 700 videos, something like that. But he is an IT expert with a big medical corporation down there in Maryland. So he knows how to dig down into the stuff that you and I just wouldn't have the skills to do. And he says that his channel and our channels are routinely monitored by the intelligence agencies and by NASA, by JPL, by Caltech, by various other organizations. I have no reason to disbelieve him, but I am taking him at his word. I have no way to verify that. Anyway, there sits this nose cone glinting in the sunlight with this nice square with a circle up in the left-hand corner of the square and a bigger circle in the middle. And then that recessed point at the top. What is this? You know, people will immediately jump on oh, it's a spacecraft. Well, yeah, maybe it is a spacecraft. But we just don't know because it's alien. Now, we're going to stay in the same Percy 383. And this is as close as we can get to this one because it's at hypermag already. Well, look inside that yellow box and tell me you don't see a tumbled down building with squares and a foundation, maybe some steps. Let your eyes play over that, and you'll see what I mean. Now, not a world-class, jaw-dropping anomaly, of course, but I wanted to show you just a couple things that I found in this particular GMAC before we leave it. And then, hey, look there, Whitebeard Sky Daddy. Glad you came out of your food coma there, my friend, and that you're back among the living. And there may be fake polish and blurring. We find it all the time, don't we? I mean, you know, I don't know that they're putting in false reflections. I think that's above their pay grade. I think they want to fix things as quickly as possible. They probably have macros that they can hit a button. They can select something and hit a button and it takes care of it. But it's that sunlight that pretty hard to fake. And then before we leave this GMAC, I found this really nice rounded building stone over in the corner. Again, not a jaw-dropping anomaly. And you can see the other blocks in the background and that radius thing in the left back. But just to show you that we're still looking at ruins in Jezero Crater. Now, this next one I'm going to preface before I show it to you. Back in, I think 2017, 2016, I found a really great pyramid on Mars. I found just a ton of them at this point. But I published it, and Rami picked up on it and did his own processing, and he credited me down in this little blurb underneath the picture. So this is a 3D of Rami's rendering of my find from 5 years ago. Hey, Bill, thank you for your kind words. And, you know, here's what's impossible about the cover-up that they're doing and why I do what I do. Because I say again and again, they cannot hide the math. Non-fractal mathematics, you can rockify it, you can blur it, you can put sand over part of it, but you can't hide the math. And so, yeah, they're going to work as hard as they can to cover stuff up. Anyway, here's that cool pyramid that I found in 3D, and this is a long ways off. This was from Curiosity 1448, and a truncated pyramid. Looks like it has a rectangular building up on top, and then it has that triangular inset. It looks a great deal like the Pyramid of the Sun at Teotihuacan down in Mexico, which I have explored, and it's very cool. It's an amazing complex, that Teotihuacan, and all the buildings and the walkways. It's hard to believe that so-called primitive people built that complex, because it looks like you're in the 24th century. That's the way it looks. You go stand on the Pyramid of the Moon, which is a smaller pyramid that looks right down the walkway, the promenade that has all the, well, you can see everything from there. And it just really looks super modern and super clean and super mathematical, and really quite amazing. And just recently, a couple of years ago, archaeologists discovered a pool of liquid mercury under the Pyramid of the Sun. And we know from various sources, from the Mahabharata, from the Vijnana Bhairava, from the Vril Society, various other sources, that the rotation of Mercury in a magnetic field is what produces anti-gravity. So was this a place where anti-gravity ships could come in and top off their mercury? Because it does vaporize slowly. Very deadly vapor too, by the way. But you see some of these comments. Yeah, it was a lot of fun to visit there. And yeah, David Hatcher Childress, interesting guy. You know, he's funny, isn't he? Because he comes across on camera as kind of this loopy guy, but when you read his books, he's a very good writer and a very thorough researcher. I've enjoyed all of his books very much. So, could it be a... Well, here's what tickles me about it. They say pyramids were landing places. They had to build... It's like the temple at Baalbek, where they have the huge, huge stones that had to bear the weight of the landing craft. No, they didn't. There's zero gravity. There's 0 point. They don't weigh anything. All they'd have to do is adjust it, the anti-gravity, just enough to give it a good connect with the ground so the wind doesn't blow it away. They don't need thick platforms for that. They don't need a pyramid to land on. They can land anywhere. That's like saying the Harrier jet can only land on an aircraft carrier. End of story. That's stupid. They land anywhere they want to land. By the way, have any of you ever heard a Harrier jet live? Good grief. That is the loudest sound I think I've ever heard. I mean, it's really off the charts. Anyway, let me catch up with a couple of these things here. Well, yeah, Mr. Seven Digit, they used, it would make sense that any ship, whether terrestrial or made to fly in the hard black, would use gyroscopes of some kind to provide some form either of inertial stability or a false horizon or any number of applications. But a gyroscope doesn't have to be a spinning flywheel. It can be a laser reflected in a ring or in a square. And I believe that they use laser gyroscopes in some of the more advanced aircraft and in some of the satellites that we're launching. So, but gyroscopes, yeah, they're quite the thing. I remember playing for hours with one when I was a kid, making it do all kinds of crazy stuff. So let's go ahead and cycle through the views again before we sign off. And we started with the asteroid Itokawa. And there it is. It's about a mile long. You're seeing it from about 5 miles away. And the Japanese probe, Hayabusa, flew out there, got there in 2005, landed and picked up some samples, came back and returned samples to the Earth. And by the way, they found water and all of the stuff for biological life in that comet, or rather in that asteroid. So anyway, take a look at this image, and then just a day or two later, it took this picture. Oops, wrong one. That's a close-up I wanted you to look at. Let's go back to this one. Yeah, there it is. Same asteroid, but now with a visitor on the surface. And of course we zoomed in on that. And if you look really closely on the right side, you can see a perfect circle on this thing. And also on the left side, it's got kind of a Death Star dish in it. And it's got those 3, what are they, landing legs? Are they antennae? What are they? And this did, in fact, remind me of the Sputnik, which they launched when I was a kid. I think it was in October of '57. I'd have to check that. But that's quite the find right there. And you know, truth be told, every single asteroid we've been to has had some kind of machinery on it. What looks like mining machinery, or sometimes it looks like craft that are there. And yeah, I think you're right, Mr. Seven Digit. I mean, if I was, if that's a craft, and assuming they don't have inexhaustible resources, maybe they needed water. Maybe they needed water for fuel cells or for hydrogen. Maybe they needed biological materials or components for biological materials for their food synthesizers. I mean, the asteroids are basically orbital Walmarts for any spacefaring nation or planet. So let's move on to one of Rami's finds. He's calling a machine. And it may or may not be a machine. But it certainly is strange, isn't it? It's got those concentric cones on the left-hand side and all those neat little squiggles, those purple ones down in front. You've got a right angle division coming down between those squiggles. And you've got a piece with 3 balls on it to the right. And then obviously the 2 big balls that are on top of the purple squiggles. So yeah, that's a pretty darn good find. And really, James, those designs on the comet are, I think, perhaps more a result of pixelation in the image rather than any legitimate stuff. I did have a look over the comet before I got into working on the visitor, the hitchhiker. But it's not that great a resolution. Then we moved on to a GMAC by Nev T. And this is one of those really cool things he does where he combines the ChemCam black and white and color images into one GMAC, which I think is, well, that's way above my pay grade. Nev is really, really good at this stuff. He's been doing it. He's a complete, passionate weird job like me. That's all he wants to do. Anyway, we're looking at that circled area there, which is this really cool box up there above. And we'll take a closer look at that in just a moment. But I wanted to draw your attention down here too, because that is definitely strange. There's definitely some non-fractal stuff going on there on the left, and I don't know, those spheres, it just looks like a machine that's been laid open, bent and laid open. Anyway, let's zoom in on Laszlo's box. And there it is. This is absolutely an artifact. No question about it. There's just too much non-fractal math present there to call it natural or a freak of nature. Then we had all these really cool boulders that I think are shaped. I can't prove it, except to say that the large one on the right does have 490-degree angles. It does have a rounded top, a perfect compound curve. That's pretty hard to pull off with erosion. And then in the center of the compound curve, a recessed oval with what appears to be circles in it, spheres. So I strongly suspect these are worked blocks. Well, thank you, Rusty. I'm awfully glad that you could make it. I hope you can stick around a little bit longer, but I understand if you need to go. And very nice to have all the proud weirdos here. That makes life a lot more fun. And we had this thing that Sarah Runcie pointed out, which I think is just great. To me, this makes my hackles stand up. It might not look too impressive to a lot of people, but to me this is like just screams artificial. Especially this end there on the right that I've circled. It's obviously a perfect square with all those little teeth, all those little gadgets. And as you move your eyes to the left, more angles, more squares, more spheres, that left end. I really don't know if this is, glad you can stick around, Rusty. You know, is that a cave in back? I don't know. There's not enough resolution to really make a call on that. So I'm not going to call it that. Then we went way back in the day to Sol 120 of Curiosity and TJ's Cube, Thomas, Mikey, Schroeder, Jensen, a wonderful Danish anomalist, a good friend of mine. Thank you, James, for your kind words. Thank you, everybody, for being part of the action. That includes you, James. It would be pretty lonely here if I was just by myself talking to the wall. But anyway, he's made a number of important finds over the years, and this being one of his first. And yeah, I have to agree, Mr. Seven Digit. I think there are a lot of scientists and archaeologists who are honest. And by the way, thank you for spelling archaeologists properly. I'm impressed. But you know what? They're under a great deal of peer pressure. And if they step too much out of the box, they're going to lose their funding. They're going to lose their grants. They're going to lose their university position. They're going to use their standing, whatever it is. So there's a lot of incentive for them to stay with a herd mentality. Anyway, here's TJ's Cube, which is just so distinct. But the reason I'm a little bit back from it, thank you, Crazy A. I appreciate that very much. Thank you for your nice remarks. The reason I have this pulled back is because I wanted to point out these things as well. Each one of those are as anomalous as could be. So now we're going to zoom in on TJ's Cube, and does it get any more perfect than that? Come on. What are the chances of an absolutely perfect cube forming? Yes, I know salt crystals are cubical, and that there are other minerals that have a cubical lattice molecular structure. But something this big, that's another story, and in context with other anomalies. And I agree with you, Crazy A. I mean, those edges do look finished, don't they? They look notched. And here's another Rami anomaly. That's kind of fun to say. Very cool dome. I think this one is just a great find. I mean, that's, first of all, obviously an artifact. This is not natural. And as you can see on the left-hand side, it's down there in the left-hand corner. But definitely, Mr. Seven Digit is talking about zooming in on the object behind the cube. Well, let's go back there. We'll take a look. And yeah, see, I use Occam's razor, Mr. Seven Digit, which is the simplest answer is usually the correct one. That has every potentiality for being just some eroded sedimentary stone. Now, I personally don't think it is, because in the right corner there's that perfect circle, and the edges are, the slices are even thickness, and then just in back of that is a rectangular piece with a couple of perfect circles engraved in it. But like I mentioned earlier, I try not to get into the weeds on these things because the videos need to move forward. I don't want them to be boring. And of course, a major complaint, especially from people who are not proud weirdos, who have not learned X3D, is that, oh, more blurry crap. This is just blurry crap. Why can't you make it clear? To which I answer, why can't you? Here's the link. Show me how you do it so we can learn. Then we have our GMAC from Neil Spence, a nice big cubical chunk of Martian bluestone in the center. And this makes my anomaly meter move into the yellow zone. I mean, it's definitely got some weirdness going on there. Not the least of which is this, the arrow. If you can see that, it's kind of hard to see that white arrow. I should have changed the color on that. In fact, I may go back and do that. But you see that almost gear-like or ratchet-like radius there, and then the piece coming down with 3 knobs on it. I mean, how does a boulder break that way? What is inside a boulder to make it shatter in such a distinctive way? And then, of course, we have that nice little almost control panel there. Rectangular area with knobs in it. And indeed, this entire lower section in front is filled with non-fractal angles, with 90-degree angles, and other suspicious stuff. And now we're back to a Percy GMAC by Nev. You see it standing out there on the plain all by itself like a brave little soldier. And we see what looks, I'm calling it a nose cone. That's not what it is, of course, but it helps me remember what it is we're looking at. And you see the markings on it? The markings are even more clear now. And once again, I have to say, this is not natural. This is artificial. And staying in the same GMAC, I wanted to show you this collapsed, in my opinion, it's a collapsed structure. It's not a world-class jaw dropper or anything like that, but since we're in this GMAC, we may as well pay a visit to it. It's already at the breakup point, which is why we're not getting any closer to it. Really, really does look like a collapsed structure to my eyes. And then again, in the same GMAC, there was this really cool rounded building stone with sharp 90-degree angles on the left side. Just underscoring the fact once again that Jezero crater is loaded with ruins of an ancient city. And then here's Rami's version of the pyramid that I found back in 2017. He credited me down at the bottom. Thank you, Rami. I appreciate that. And this is a long distance shot. But you can see that it appears to have a rectangular white structure on top of the pyramid. And that triangular inset almost looks like it has steps going in. Now I'm speculating. It's not clear enough to call that. But there it is. So that brings us to the end of another live hang. I'm going to try to catch up with a couple of your remarks if there are any. I'll look down here and see. And you may be right about that, Mr. 7-Digit. I noticed that too, that there appear to be rover tracks, and I think maybe they did go over there and take a photo of it. In fact, I think they do that all the time. I think they see the anomalies just like we do, only better because they're looking through their own high-resolution cameras, not the crap they put online. And they're able to go up either with a telephoto lens or actually drive the rover up to what it is they want to see. And they snap high-res color 3D images and put those in the classified file there over at NASA for cataloging. I'm of the personal opinion that we already have boots on the ground up on Mars, and that indeed there are archaeologists and scientists present on the surface of Mars, and that NASA is building a catalog of, and plotting them, of course, to keep them busy for years to come in terms of finding, looking at, sampling, bringing back. Can you imagine the museum that will eventually be on Mars? Whether it's 100 years, 75 years, 150 years. But, you know, eventually it's going to happen. There's going to be a museum on Mars. Human presence will be a given. And it's going to be loaded with fabulous artifacts from ancient civilizations on Mars, which I think have been more than one. I think there have been several. And from different nationalities here on Earth. So, and I'm hoping, who knows if YouTube will be around at that time or any of the video platforms, but what I'm doing is legacy work. I want to create a body of evidence that is the truth, as far as I understand it, and leave that behind so that it is documented in some fashion, so that when people do get up there and they start finding, especially the larger ones, the larger ruins, and the geoglyphs, the big ones, and various other artifacts, that they'll be able to go back and say, you know what, we had this available to us in 3D 75 years ago. Who knew about this guy? Who knows? Maybe I'll be really famous, you know, a century and a half after I'm cacked. And who cares? You know, that's just a silly thought. But, you know, fame doesn't mean anything. Fame is just a fart in a windstorm, isn't it? It comes and it goes. And SpaceLink TV's here. Yay! Is that you, TJ? That's SpaceLink TV, right? Oh, man. Yeah. Well, wait a minute. Let me pull up TJ's cube, because TJ, I was sharing one of your early finds from Curiosity 120, which was your famous cube. And by the way, there's a certain anomaly hunter, a young lady whose initials are MG, who has claimed that she has found it, that she was the one. Be that as it may, I remember that you posted it in the day and everyone was amazed at how perfect that was. I'm always thrilled to have TJ on board with us because he's a good friend and he and Dolly have done so much. They're working with Billy Carson, or maybe they're not anymore. I don't know. But TJ has some really amazing video skills. I wish I had a tablespoon of his DNA so I could come up to speed and be the amazing whiz that he is. But in any case, yeah, we have, I think, classified files that are filled with high-res 3D images collected by NASA over the decades at various rovers, starting with Sojourner, maybe even starting with the Viking lander. I haven't really examined those images. I think there are some stuff in there. And, you know, it was funny. I was helping my son. I think he was in 8th grade, and he was doing a science project. And I had just listened to and this is back in 1996, I think. And I just heard a Coast to Coast program with Sir Charles Schultz, the Astronomer Royal. Hey, Dolly, give Dolly a very chaste and proper pinch from me, if you will, TJ. That's one good-looking gal. Woo! But anyway, and he had talked about seashells that he had found on the surface of Mars, and he had posted anaglyphs, and so I went online, and I had anaglyph glasses, and looked at those and went, by golly, those really do look like seashells, and it really does look like a seagull's skull, and so forth. So I suggested to my son, I said, why don't you do a science paper on these? And my wife at the time was really upset. No, they don't think he's crazy. So, okay, so is the Astronomer Royal of Great Britain crazy? You know, is his evidence, and is this evidence from NASA not good enough? But anyway, that's what piqued my interest in it initially, and I didn't get it back to it for a number of years. I was too busy riding the roller coaster down the razor blade of life. In any case, I finally did get to it. So anyway, yeah, there were so many good, you know, I remember one TJ found, I wish I could find it. Maybe he'll post it on Facebook or sometime soon, but you found a set of wheels with axles on Mars that just, you couldn't argue with it. They were as clear could be. In fact, I'd love to have the link for that so I could go in and do the 3D on it. But, you know, and then Thomas found the, for want of a better name, we're calling it a Stargate from the MRO. It's this giant square structure in a canyon with what appears to be a gigantic lens in it, and all kinds of walkways and structures. So TJ has been a very important voice in the anomaly hunting business for many, many years. And he was one of the earliest ones to get this stuff out in front of people. And so I'm very glad to have met him, and especially enjoyed our hang down at the 6th Annual Mars Conference down in Mobile, Alabama. I was so eager to go meet him and Chris and Billy and Ken and all the rest that I rode my motorcycle 1,500 miles in 37-degree ice-cold rain for 3 days to get there. And I about died, but it was worth it. We had a really good time. And thank you. Yeah, if you find it, what I need is a link, TJs, so I can chase it down and do my processing on it and bring up the 3D. Hi, David. You're catching us just as we're going out, but I'm glad you stopped by. Yeah, and that, oh man, that image you found of the Stargate, that was a real breakthrough, and so clearly artificial. Nobody could argue with it. But Anyway, I'm proud to know Thomas and Chris and Billy and Ken Johnston and all the other weirdos that were there. I hope we get together again sometime. And by the way, TJ, could I point something out, my friend, before you leave? Oh, I remember you took video of me arriving on the bike. Since you took that video, I have lost 115 pounds. I've still got about 10 pounds to go to be at my target weight. But I'm working on it. So, you know. And you know what the secret of my success is? Twizzlers. That's all I eat. Strawberry Twizzlers. The weight just comes flying off. Of course, my mouth is red all day, which my wife kind of likes, but that's a little embarrassing, but works like a charm. Anyway, thank you one and all for stopping by tonight and being part of the live hang. I'm so honored that you spend a little bit of time with us. Thank you so much. And I hope that you have a great week. All of these images are going to be in the video going up later this week. So for all you proud weirdos out there, stay safe and stay weird. This is your buddy Dave over at MarsX3D. Be well.